Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome to the fifth module in the series Marketing Management, a VUCA perspective, where we cover the fundamentals. I am your instructor, Siddhiprad Bhattacharya. Welcome back to the next part of our learning. Now, before we learn more of what is on offer today, quickly let's delve into something which is the holy grail for marketers, the insight. The insight is something which happens in a flash. A moment's insight is sometimes worth a life's experience. Why so? Because at the end of the day, that is a moment of clarity which human beings experience and that drives their decision. Marketers are always on the hunt for a moment's insight, an insight into the minds of their consumers. And that is the holy grail we've been mentioning. Insights provide a lensing into why and what drives people to make decisions. And if the insight is powerful enough, it can be used by the brand to convert somebody sitting on the fence into a paying customer. Which brings us to the subject, keeping the customer first, the consumer first. And this is how marketing tries and approaches the entire marketing puzzle. Now, one of the most prominent entrepreneurs and world leaders when it comes to business, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, has said this on customer centricity. One advantage, perhaps a somewhat subtle one, of a customer driven focus is that it aids a certain type of proactivity. When we are at our best, we don't wait for external pressures. We are internally driven to improve our services, adding benefits and features before we have to. We lower prices and increase value for customers before we have to. We invent before we have to. These investments are motivated by customer focus rather than by reaction to what competition is doing. We think this approach earns more trust with customers and drives rapid improvements in customer experience. And most importantly, even in those areas where we are already the market leader. With that, we delve into the necessary mind shift, the mind shift which is required to understand and process customer information and make sense of how to approach it from the marketing angle. Traditionally, organizations would have been structured by that triangle looking shape on your left, the top management sitting on top directing everything, which would then have a full layer of service managers who would take orders and implement them. You would have frontline employees who would go and face customers, and at the receiving end of all this structure would be the customers themselves. This was typically the format post World War II and lasted for a fair amount of time till about the mid 70s to 80s, and then by then the thinkers, the strategists, the people who were observing human behavior and a lot more psychoanalysts who came inside the system and aided the process started shifting the ball. The new ball game looks like the graph on your right. You have a universe. That universe is the mindset of the customer. You exist within that mind space. So, your frontline staff interacts with the customer given their mind space. Your service managers also operate with inputs from the customers, and your top management also keeps tabs on the same. All of them are open and have a direct line to the customer. Yes, there are various ways to do that, but this is typically the mindset shift which you need for an organization to thrive in today's day and age of marketing. So, what is it that marketers should avoid when it comes to going out there and ensuring that they deliver? The first thing is that you are not sufficiently market focused and customer driven. That is your first pitfall. If you do this, you are dead in the water. The next part is the company does not fully understand its intended target customers. If you do not know them, who are you going to sell to and what are you going to sell them with? What is going to be your spiel? What is going to be your pitch to them? You need to know your customer before selling. Third, being the company needs to better define and monitor its competitors. What is it that you are saying differently and which is more engaging than what your competitor just said and went away? You have to be more engaging, more opportune and grab the opportunities that are there. Then the company also does not manage relationships with stakeholders. Nobody will remember you. You have to continuously foster and favor the stakeholders you are working with. Then the company is not good at finding new opportunities. Death knell again. Innovation, like we have spoken of in the previous conversations, is the only personal reason why marketing exists. Milan Kundera, if you remember. The company's marketing planning process is deficient. Again, you may have great strategy, but if you do not plan the way forward, you will stumble and fall. Product and service policies need tightening. If you do not do this, you will again run aground. The company's brand building and communication skills are weak. You have done everything well. Your products are fantastic, your distribution is great, but nobody hears of you. Or worse, if they hear of you, they hear negative things. Or even worse, your competitor is telling all sorts of things negative about you and your customer unfortunately is believing them. Again, bad news for you. So, communication is a key component of marketing. We will cover this in further detail down the entire course, but remember that, put it aside as a bright spot in your mind. The company is not organized for effective and efficient marketing. Again, you are only going to dig your own grave. And finally, you need to be curious. The company has not made maximum use of technology. What is next? What is the next big thing? What can you leverage to your benefit? If you are not tracking that, the trends in society, the trends that are happening in technology, again you are dead in the water. So, these are the 10 gravest marketing sins, and you should always be on the lookout that whether you are committing any of these or you are veering close, steer clear of these. So, the big question that comes to us is what can be the other preparative steps an organization can take to prepare itself for customer orientation. You want to be with the customer, you want to hear them, you want to act and provide for their needs, wants and desires. How do you go about it? What do you do in terms of structure? You start with strategy at the core. You have to have a strategic approach to achieve marketing success. You have to clearly think through what you want to do, what is the path, what are the steps you are going to take. That well defined mission statement is something which will take you home. The first thing you need to do is have limited specific goals. Do not go all over the place. No laundry list, just keep it tight to the bare essentials that will see you through. Stress on the company's major policies and values, what you believe in, what you stand for, what you are known for, and narrow the range of individual discretion. I look at it this way, cannot be it. Everybody in the organization pulls in one direction. All horses are pulling the chariot in one direction, and you drive consistent action because there is a certain belief system. Every individual, every employee, every stakeholder, every collaborator, all hands on deck. And finally, then you have got defined major markets which you have put out there, and they serve your company's strategy and tactics. Tactics we will cover in a future lesson. So, you will see how they follow from the company's mission statement. Which are the markets you are targeting? Who are the people you are speaking with? Why are you speaking with them? What will you gain out of them? What will they gain out of you? All of these things should be clear and answered. you have to have a long term view of how your strategic goal of the company is fulfilling your objectives. You need to be also flexible to be able to change only when this ceases to be relevant, when market forces demand it, when certain inflection points happen in the lifetime of the organization where you need to pivot, where you need to switch, where you need to change gears, and keep it all simple. So, short, memorable, meaningful. Purposing, we have spoken of in the previous conversations, is very, very important, that you should work with and keep the entire conversation meaningful, so that it is more effective. People remember less and people remember impactful stuff. So, do not go into long winded stuff, keep it simple, keep it understandable, like you are talking to a 6-year-old. So, what therefore is a consumer centric corporate culture? At the end of the day, since we are all human beings, these are our shared experiences as a community, as something we carry as our culture. These are stories, these are beliefs, these are norms. All of us sort of identify with them quickly, immediately, and without much doubt. So, these, for an organization, you have to identify, you have to encode, and they will characterize what your organization is, what you stand for, what should people look at you and believe in. Now, there are various models. We will go into the models so that you get a framework to operate within, and it gives you a certain reference check every single time when you are checking for the fundamentals, whether you are going right, whether you are going wrong. The first of these is the 5 C's of marketing, wherein you have got customers. So, target your customers. So, there you have got B2C, which is business to consumer, and B2B, which is business to business. Obviously, you also have variations of these. So, you have now got D2C, which is direct to consumer, and then you have also got to D2G, direct to government. So, all these other formats also exist, but the primary 2 large formats are the B2C and the B2B ones the world over. So, you need to look at these. Here, what the goal is to create superior value. Obviously, you have competition. So, superior value keeps you in better stead than the others, and this works for your customers. They buy into you, they buy your product, and you also reciprocally, from the value you get, the money they spend, the advocacy they do for you, you also benefit and the company benefits at large. Then you have got collaborators. Who are your collaborators? On one side, the partner entities, your suppliers, your distributors, your research and development people, your creative agencies, your PR agencies, your marketing activation agencies. These are the people who will provide the resources that you do not have within your organization. Those may not be your core competency, but you need the right people getting the jobs done for you. So, these are your partners, and then you have got collaboration, which enhances the customer value and efficiency. So, better the customer is also feeling like they are part of the entire ecosystem of the brand or the organization, the more they feel at home, the more they feel comfortable with the brand, the more reasons they have to stick to the brand. Then you have got competitors, the ones you need to be wary of. They compete to fulfill similar customer needs. So, how are you separate from them? We will cover differentiation, which is a huge marketing subject unto itself in a later conversation, but keep that again parked in your mind as a burning bright spot. Similarly, you need to always analyze what your competitors are up to, what their objectives are, what their strategies have been, and keep refining. It is a constant calibration game. Refine your company's position. You can't just be lax about it. You have to always keep looking and always keep probing as to what the other competitor is doing, which you can do differently, maybe better. Then the company itself. So, here each strategic business unit, and which is called an SBU, manages specific offerings and requires its own model. We will come to models in some time. And then the context, because everything without context is just things. Context gives it purpose, gives it meaning, gives it an end goal. All of these things are brought about by understanding why you are doing it. Why is central. The context is therefore central to all of these aspects. So, at the end, your customer sitting pretty at the right center, you have got collaborators on one side who support you, the company which has to be marshaled to manage all of these things, your competitors who you must ward against, but the entire thing sits pretty inside of the context universe, and this is how you need to map the 5 C's of marketing. So, why will somebody stick with you? Yes, obviously you will have to provide something which they feel has made it worth their while to stick along, which means you have to derive a certain amount of value. Now, when you turn your customer into a collaborator, know that you have delivered value and know that those people are with you all the way home. Now, what is a value proposition? In a value proposition, you need to derive value, your customer needs to derive value, and your collaborators also need to derive value, and where all of these 3 meet is the optimum value proposition. So, you need to understand how you are going to make it worth the while for all 3, and all 3 have to find some common ground, where the target customer chooses this offering, you make an offering which is superior to alternative options, your suppliers, distributors and co-developers benefit from it, your collaborators partner with the company instead of other entities, and you get an offering which your company has created. So, it is your own product which you are bringing out there. So, you have invested resources, you have done your research, you found the answers to questions which are burning in the consumer's mind, you have arrived. How to arrive at an optimal value proposition? For example, if we take the case of Starbucks, they give you a certain variety of coffee, beverages, they also do a little bit more than that, and you also get the psychological benefit of expressing your own personality. You get your own name on your coffee cup. This customized beverage which you are paying for is the monetary compensation you pay to Starbucks, and the coffee growers are the collaborators who provide the best kind of coffee for the input, and you have a consistent demand for their product, which is why you keep going there. Starbucks maintains those standards, and that is why they are respected in the coffee space. And then they receive these revenues and profits, and from this they take it further and give the building of a brand, and you enhance its marketing footprint, so that the more you spread, the closer you are to the brand, you feel that, hey, if I want great coffee, this is one place I can always safely go, and that is how Starbucks is known the world over. The marketing mix, the 4 Ps, were the traditional way that Philip Kotler launched and taught all of us in marketing how to go about looking at how to get marketing done. There was promotion, there was product, there was place, there was price, but then this entire thing has been evolved. Now, the better, more new and improved version of this is the 7 Ts. So, this little item we have talked about, the optimum value proposition, is something which is formed by the marketing offering. So, you have got the product, you have got a service, you have got a brand. You will get to know all of these things in more minute detail as we go downward. Price, incentives, communication and distribution, all of these factors come together to construct a market offering. That market offering is something which finally goes and gets presented to the end consumer. Once they agree with this, whatever strategic points you have cleared and whatever tactics you employ, these go into the designing of the value. So, at the center, if you are trying to create value, everybody is focused on creating that value, whether it be a great value product, your service on the same is great, the brand is awesome and people want to adhere to it. You give incentives to all parties, all stakeholders, customers, partners, collaborators and what have you. You have got a price which is sweet, not too high, not too low, but people feel that they have paid the right fair amount for that particular kind of product, that prestige of owning that product and a variety of other things. Communication supports this entire conversation, gives the customer a reason to feel good for having purchased, and when you look at distribution, you feel that the value has been absolutely well delivered. So, these are the 7 Ts which are today the in thing, the new way the 4 Ps have evolved into a better model. How does one look at this? You create a value map. This is a framework which helps customers understand how to appreciate what you are putting in front of them, and so therefore, you have taken questions which they may ask and answered them the best way you can through research, through understanding, through interactions with customers, and you have plotted these out. So, when it comes to identifying who your target customers are, you have got a target audience where you have got the customers, you need to understand what the needs are that you need to fulfill and who are these customers, you profile them. Then you have got collaborators, what other entities will help you with this task, then you have got the company yourself. So, what resources will you put in for this particular enterprise, and you will fulfill the identified customer need. How you mapped out competition, obviously there is not much to be told about, you just need to look at their strategy, you need to look at their approach, you need to look at their pricing and product. Then the context most importantly. So, are you creating certain pieces of the narrative so that you cover socio-cultural, technological, regulatory, economic and physical aspects of the environment? Are you making sure that you are leveraging the best benefits out of these? If you are, then are you communicating the same to your end customer, and does your customer feel good having bought into your product and your brand? These are questions you need to answer, and therefore, the customer's values come into play. What value does the offering create for target customers? This is one part you answer. The collaborators' value, how do you benefit them, and how the organization benefits from the entire enterprise. Altogether, this creates a market value map. It has to be a win-win situation. Everybody should go home happy. None can fleece the other. So, this is what any good marketer will always strive towards, try to create value for all people in the ecosystem. How do you figure out important answers within this framework? When you are talking product, you ask what key features can you build in that can enhance the likability of the product. When it comes to service, again it is features based, brand again features based, pricing, optimum pricing that is going to entice your intended audience, incentives, so discounting, some add-ons, some bonuses, what are you going to provide. Then communication wise, how will you get the message out to your target customers and collaborators, because both need to be happy, they need to feel that you are giving them the right product, and your collaborators need to feel that they have worked with the right company to get the product out, and there are enough people who are asking for it. So, this becomes the company's offering. If you are going to change anything, these people need to be aware. And finally, the distribution system, where you need to ensure that you have talked about it, now the product also needs to get delivered. So, I have talked about it, if I do not deliver the product, then there is a no show, I do not want that happening. So, you need to work on these lines. Let us get into a case study, Amazon retail entering India. This should start to put things into context, because Amazon is a fabulous example of what has happened in all these spaces. It is best said in story form. Why? Because we typically tend to feel that when we are talking about a certain brand, the way things happened with them in the past, we understand that there were certain aspects of the framework that were applicable. There were certain things in their environment which affected them. Their consumers thought, perceived and acted in a certain way because of certain environmental factors. The policy makers in government, they affected the changes to a fair extent. So, all of these things are items that a marketer, like we spoke of, it is not just your market, it is also market forces which act on said market. So, all of these factors taken together are the consideration of what needs to be looked at by any marketer for that matter. So, with that, let us get into the subject of how Amazon entered in Indian retail. Amazon, no introductions required, but still we must. So, it was founded by the person we took the quote from, Jeff Bezos. It is currently the world's largest e-commerce company. Yes, I am sure most of us have heard of, if not bought from Amazon, and it started in the US. It started with very humble beginnings as an online book retailer. So, they were just selling books, and that time it was all physical books because it has started some time back. The fun part is that they realized that the online medium provided them with an avenue where they could make a product. In this case, it started with books, and the customer meet. As the interactions grew, more and more information was shared, more and more experiential cues were added. You could preview a book now, you can now preview the book, you can look into a few chapters of it, learn little more about the author, learn about their other books, learn about the subject matter itself, and then get into the purchase. For other typical household goods and products which Amazon now offers, you can look at reviews. You can, so you could for books as well. You can look at reviews, you can look at the product specifications, you can understand what you are getting into straight from the horse's mouth. So, the manufacturer, the seller, they talk about the product, and you get to hear from them exactly what they are trying to tell you. Alongside, what you can also do is, you can listen to real time, real world consumers, people who have paid money to buy the product. You have found people who have bought it, they unbox it in front of you, they show you right from the get go what is inside, how it has come, the care and detailing in the packaging and the product finish. Then they use it, and at times very avid users, very avid reviewers, they publish multiple reviews. They will publish an initial review which was about when they got it. They will publish a midline review which talks about how after some time the performance has been, and a long term one as well. So, you find people who are such diligent ones. Not most, India typically does not have too many reviewers who get into that kind of detailing. Indians typically are more aligned to leaving a few notes, a few words, and if the product is bad, then they will leave a rant. But a very, very normalized, a very, very logical view at reviews is something which is growing. Now, with the trend of video reviews which influencers make, you get to hear a mostly positive review of what the product is. Honest ones are yet to fully hit the market, but as the trend is growing, you tend to hear more and more detailed and honest reviews as well. Now, sorry for the digression, coming back to the subject at hand. In 2013, Amazon enters India. They chose this gentleman Amit Agarwal to lead the entire process, and they launched first a third party marketplace. They had deep pockets, so they could manage to do a lot many more things than just launch as Amazon. Here they launched books, they launched movies, they launched TV shows, and they also adapted to Indian FDI restrictions, foreign direct investment, and provided a platform, a comprehensive platform for buyers and sellers instead of direct retail. So, they became what we now know as an aggregator. They became a marketplace. So, they did not do all of the manufacturing and they did not do all of the selling. It was like you walked into an e-mall and you actually looked at products. Obviously, Amazon has its own Amazon Basics, which is a private label being a brand which Amazon itself creates, furnishes and gives to you at times at competitive or undercut prices, because they would like their products also sold. So, that entire exercise was also there, and you actually managed to get better products from sellers who had better reviews, sellers who would drive better numbers and better reviews and get better impact on the consumer would be the ones who would end up getting preferred, because you would rank up. Everything in the digital space is about the more number of reviews, the more number of responses you can generate, the more number of emotions, the more number of reactions you can generate from the public consuming whatever you are producing for them. So, there were lots of factors which affected the launch and growth of Amazon in India. In their global store launch, they gave access to over 4 million, it's a huge number, 4 million international products and brands. So, that number of sizable inventory items should give reason to think. When they launched, they came very, very hard and strong when it came to giving the customers benefit. You may ask, why not collaborators? See, they knew of this particular aspect that at the end of the day, even if I get a lot many sellers on board, if products do not move, if consumers do not feel that Amazon is great at delivering very quality, very appreciable products to their doorstep, they will not come online, they will not refer other people. That initial movement from the customer side, getting them in droves inside, was essential to the success that Amazon would have to have in the longer run. See, again, if we go back, all of these things which form the framework, Amazon has filled these out in their own minds. They know the product is not their own, but the greatest product that they have is something which only the best sellers, so therefore, the review system is going to furnish, and so therefore, you can get customers to go and purchase those ones. Their service of bringing things to your doorstep and taking it back, mostly no questions asked, is the service that they provide. Nowadays, it has changed its policies. There are certain ones which give you replacement, there are certain ones which you can return, there are certain ones which are no refund. Then Amazon was already established, so they had that one advantage, and they were coming from the US. So, because of which that particular benefit is something which worked in their favor. They did not need too much of an introduction. It was like going into an already established, well known, and by dint of being American, well respected brand purchase space, the marketplace. And because they were taking out a lot many more middlemen out of the entire distribution system, that centralization was giving them a price advantage. They were also buying in bulk. So, all of these things worked out to advantage for Amazon. It also worked to advantage for collaborators, because they could now directly sell in bulk with a minimum order quantity to a large giant who would take care of things, and things would get run almost as if on assembly line. They also gave decent incentives, and in terms of communication, without too much spent in media, they still managed to ensure, just by the sheer weight of how the brand was, how well it was known, being an American brand, Indians loving the fact that a large worldwide brand is now in India, absolutely dove into Amazon's offering. And the distribution obviously helped. Things arrived on time, in decent condition at your home, most often than not. So, typically the benefits they gave were, you could pay in local currency. Yes, you did not have to spend dollars on this, and you could actually buy global products, and obviously you also could buy local products. So, things were set, and this flexible 30-day return policy was something which was the biggest bait for customers to get in. You look at the product, if you do not like it, return it. So, you would get a full or partial refunds depending on policy, and all of these things were factors that drove people and got them to repeatedly purchase on the platform. Also, Amazon took care of a lot of the support systems that made the entire buying purchase methodology and system which they had much more pleasurable for customers. So, they would handle customer queries. If you ever called Amazon earlier on, your number, so you would place a call to Amazon through the app, and you would get a call back from them, and that call back would come from a center which had a UK number. Nowadays, it has shifted to an India call center. So, you get a India number, but that change also has brought with it a certain belief in Amazon, that because now data is very as a topic, it is very sensitive. So, there is a certain sense of relief that our data, the customer's data, is presumably not going outside the country and it is staying within the confines of the country. So, that also has improved the brand image of the brand overall. Then there is shipping. So, shipping was done, there are various ways Amazon was operating with the collaborators, the sellers. So, what they would do is they would at times ask the seller to ship directly depending on the arrangement they had. At times Amazon would ship it. Packaging again at times was done by the seller, at times it was taken care of by Amazon itself. Again returns handling was done, and from time to time you have obviously heard of the Great Indian Sale. So, Amazon did those promotions to push people into a shopping frenzy. Because of that, people would wait for that particular time. It's something which has been very well done in the West. Black Friday is the biggest sale based promotional event they have, and on the lines of the same, we have got Big Billion Days in India run by Flipkart, and you have got the Amazon Great Indian Sale. So, both these things in terms of promotion have really set the benchmark on how e-tailers in India actually cajole and get their maximum sales through that particular piece in time. Customers wait for it, they actually save up and spend only then. When they entered, India's e-com opportunity was large, but it was still nascent. It was to flourish, it had not yet taken off fully. Yet India is and was at that point also the fastest growing economy. So, you had a 1.25 billion people at that point in time, and most importantly tech savvy young people. So, that was a great blessing which Amazon completely banked upon, and even better was that 260 million were English speaking. We had a robust middle class. So, all of these economic factors are part of that segmentation exercise. Even amongst all the countries in the world, why choose India? So, this is part of the segmentation exercise. If you see, you can see that 340 million people were already smartphone users at that point in time. So, all of these factors gave Amazon the confidence that if you brought your business to India, you would definitely prosper and you would gain from the ready audience which is sitting there awaiting for an aggregator to come in and provide the best of products. Now, the rapid rise in mobile wallet, which is the UPI based system that we have. Earlier there were wallets which are linked to banks and cards, and now we have got UPI which has literally taken the digital economy ahead by hugely leapfrogging all the banking from the West. These wallet users and growing internet penetration also was a major boost to Amazon. Earlier Amazon was able to cater mostly to the metros and state capitals. Now, Amazon has reached tier 2, tier 3 towns very easily, and it's normal for people to purchase from Amazon. So, all of these things have led to the big benefits that Amazon has derived from 2013 to now 2024 over 11 odd years. And the market potential of India obviously is great and growing. So, at that point in time they found that by 2016 30 billion would be India's revenue growth in terms of e-commerce, and from there by the time it hit 2020 it would be 120 billion, which was about 4x growth in about as many years, 4 years. So, this was a 51% cumulative growth every year on year, and that was stupendous in terms of the large pie that India was becoming for retailers. Obviously, a great place to go and have fun. So, Amazon decided to, and India also was set to outpace global growth rates, is still doing so. So, in the world with the fastest growing large economy. These are the factors that provide a lot of confidence for foreign brands to invest, because when you are investing outside of your shores, you need to know that you are going to actually be able to make and recover the money you are putting in. These factors brought Amazon to India's doorstep. Here you see that their starting entry policy was to first tickle and see how the market responded to an enterprise like theirs. So, they launched Junglee.com. Nobody knew it was Amazon at that point in time. They just saw Junglee. They did it purely, they had deep pockets. So, they did purely to understand the Indian consumer behavior. They got the data before they actually started selling full steam, and before market entry they were armed with all of these things. Once they had that and they had algorithms which were trained, they leveraged this experience from operating in 9 other countries also and brought it all to bear in India. So, their algorithms were robust, their distribution and logistics was all in place, their collaborator policies were pretty much all right. We will see what happened to that as well in a short while, but in general mostly hunky dory. They also studied competition, and India at that point in time had Flipkart, which was the Indian homegrown behemoth. You had Myntra, great on fashion, Snapdeal, which was again a smaller marketplace, but still growing at a very good clip. So, Snapdeal, Flipkart, Myntra, and there were a few others. So, studying all these, Amazon then started its own journey. It built trust. Trust is again critical, because without trust people will not stay long, they will not come and repeat their purchases. So, they gave low prices, but at the same point in time they clearly gave return policies, no questions asked. Initially they were doing a lot of that, and the biggest benefit that they gave was cash on delivery. If I like it, I will keep it. If I do not like it, I will not pay it, take it back. That kind of ease was unprecedented and all done online, because people were even at that point in time, despite the internet penetration, they were looking askance when it was a digitally procured product, because the belief on digital, a space where you had no textural understanding of what you are buying into or buying off, is something which kept people away from the format. But the moment it happened that you could pay cash on the spot and take it or send it right there back and to the organization, cash on delivery became a major game changer for them. Also, Amazon adopted similar practices to win Indian consumers. This is something they had deep pockets for. So, being rich, being large helped them, and traditional retail was facing the heat because of this. Why? Because amongst 14 million plus traditional stores with majority of 600 square feet kind of area, you had key cities, towns and big spaces covered, and about even 600,000 villages covered. So, this covered a fair chunk of the population, about 67%. So, with that kind of coverage, you were actually taking on a huge amount of retailers, but Amazon did it. And the concerns over e-commerce complexity, for example, like how will the returns get handled, at times people got bricks, they got soap bars instead of phones, a lot of nonsense has happened. But despite that, there were enough and more positives. So, which is why people were all right with it. And poor delivery logistics affected, cash transactions not being proper were the problems for retailers. So, all these things Amazon covered. They had deep pockets, I am saying repeatedly. So, they could cover a lot of ground in that particular sense. And these retailers were already very scared that Amazon is coming, what will happen to us. So, this was the general scenario at that point in time, which Amazon capitalized on. How? We will see further ahead. Amazon made friends of the local retailers. All the fears were worked upon, they were very actively dissipated, and you actually engaged with these people. How? You got something called Amazon Chai Cart. So, mobile tea carts were introduced, where small retail was educated, and how e-commerce works is something that they were taught. What happened next was Amazon Tatkal. So, mobile studios were being offered at that point in time. Then you had cataloging, what kind of products are you keeping. Then you had registration services, you had training services. So, they brought all of what Amazon was doing and showcased it at almost at a personal level to every individual retailer, seller they could partner up with. And that gave a lot of friendliness and trust where there was none before. And this was the result. 13,000 stores in 65 cities joined the entire logistical network of Amazon. And this was all happening very, very rapidly. So, because of which Amazon covered better ground than its homegrown competitors and was able to take the thunder from them. Again, at the very heartland level, they were able to do very, very amazing things like mom and pop stores, because these were the lifeblood of all these small places. These became delivery partners. So, even at the last mile, they were always thinking logistics and creating some sort of a collaboration. So, you brought these people on, they would never feel bad about Amazon selling in their area, because Amazon was also giving them something in the deal. So, therefore, they became willing partners, collaborators, and they sided alongside Amazon and helped its growth. So, all these things together became factors of why Amazon actually was able to work its magic, and even with limited internet access, these places thrived. Small store owners, they facilitated the orders, they notified customers. Typically, the way a small area has a lot of community living, and so therefore, people are friends, everybody knows everybody. So, the work was getting done by the last mile, and they were doing all these sundry tasks. So, they were delivering products, they were notifying customers. It was almost like it was a homely atmosphere, a large behemoth of an organization, but doing it at a very personal one-on-one scale. So, this was the magic that Amazon weaved around the Indian customer and its collaborators, its partners. That is how Amazon grew and grew half of its lifeblood, the sellers, because the collaborators part is the other half. The customer is one, but the point that marketers must also remember, that the collaborators, the partners we bring on board in an organization to ensure our distribution works, to ensure the logistics are spick and span, all of these partners are also customers. They may be internal customers, because they are more aligned with the company's offerings and what the company is doing, and they are part of that offering network, but their say, their approval, their raised hands are important for the victory of the team at large. So, all of these considerations were there. You had 1,40,000 plus sellers by 2016, which is 160% unprecedented blitzing growth, and thousands and thousands of products added on a day-to-day basis. So, amazing show there. And in terms of financial support, yes, India is currently the 5th largest economy in the world. That does not mean that the per capita income and spending power is also similar to the other 4 that walk ahead of India. We are a hugely populous country. So, that GDP once divided by the population becomes a paltry $2,500 per annum sum. So, managing those things is critically important, and ensuring that those people you are working with feel empowered, so they participate, is again Amazon's realization. They knew that the game and the victory lay in numbers. It is a volumes game. They had to reach the furthest destinations, and they had to engage the maximum amount of the populace. They could not let anybody fall by the wayside. So, this also was supported with capital float partnerships to give collateral fees. This was loans which they were giving to e-sellers, and these were unsecured collateral free loans, and up to 2 lakh rupees, this were short term loans to address their financial needs, so that the cash flow would not stop and these people would feel secure that work is going on. My money is coming, I am not feeling strapped. A lot of relief was given by Amazon to all the partners and collaborators to keep them on task, and that is how it entrenched itself in the market everywhere. 100 million plus products and any and every variety. So, books, grocery, electronics, toys, personal items, games, you just got to go on Amazon, you just search. It's become one of the largest search engines in the retail space itself, behind Google and YouTube probably. So, that allows Amazon to play with a lot of data, and especially when people are searching on Amazon, they are searching with an intent. They are searching at least with an awareness of what they want to buy. So, there is a certain amount of disposition which automatically gives them the data points through which they can actually target these people who have willingly supplied their information on an app, through an email, over promotions across other media formats, and get them to finally pay up and buy a product. So, 50% of the demand came from smaller towns, tier 2 and tier 3. So, these were amazing aspects which Amazon showcased. On competitors, Flipkart went running seeking further foreign investment because it was not able to match up to Amazon. Snapdeal just tanked, it went under. So, now they are subsumed and they are just pulling along, but they are there only in name. The teeth that Snapdeal had have been completely severed. Now, Amazon aims to make India its second largest market after the US. Yes, US has a more value based offering in terms of the market, but India again, the sheer mammoth gargantuan size of the market makes up for the volumes and the effort required. All you have to do is get the right processes in place, streamline them, and then start raking in the cash. But not all is hunky dory till it's the final whistle. It's a continuous calibration process. We will see what all they did to strengthen, and finally, we will see what all they did which did not go too well for them as well, because you must see both sides of the coin. So, Amazon strengthened its logistics in India. They created a collaborative delivery system. They partnered up with India Post, the post office, your friendly neighborhood post office. They partnered with Blue Dart, Aramex India, DHL, all the courier biggies, and then they also got bicycle and motorcycle couriers from rural and urban deliveries. So, they created a very, very robust downline, so that every place was accessible, every city, village, town was within their reach. Again, in terms of logistics and warehousing, they created nodal points, 27 fulfillment centers which were across 10 states. These are like your nodal point hubs from which again the spokes spread out to individual towns and cities. And this was versus a centralized center in the US, which worked as a centralized system from where everything was being dispatched. Here they had a distributed network which worked well for them, given the way India works and the kind of requirements that they have, and also the infrastructure which is required to support the kind of logistics that are being demanded. US is a different kind of infra, India is a very different animal. So, which is why you have to look at the ground realities, plan for them, put them on track. In terms of function, they got order tracking, which you and I have used to see where is my shipment. Then you have got quality checks, so they are giving you untouched by hand or quality checked or what have you. And then they give you storage, they give you packing and shipping. All of these things make it look prim and proper, professionally done, no room for compromise. And all of these things helped create that necessary brand image which people associated with Amazon. Again, for sellers, they gave studio facilities so that you could do product photography. You would not be selling your dingy looking product, you would get professional, well lit, well shot products which you could showcase very, very proudly and nicely on the site. Then sellers could drop products to centers for a fee, and returns were handled solely by Amazon. So, this is a way they incentivized the seller as well, and they kept expanding, and now their network reached 100 plus delivery stations, 15 sorting centers in the entirety of the country, and then they got in more defined services to vertically integrate into the system that created. So, transport services, and they got faster direct deliveries. So, Amazon Direct started working in those lines, and they were competing with Flipkart's same day delivery promise, and also the fun part was they charged lower fees. So, all of these factors swerved the seller as well as the customer towards Amazon. The customer came for the value and the seller came because at the end of the day there were enough number of customers coming to Amazon. So, the more number of people that came to Amazon would drive the reason for sellers to come there, because they could sell to more people. Again, they further optimized the supply chain and cost control. So, they got something called Easy Ship. What this did was it picked up packaged goods directly from sellers' stores for delivery. Yes, the fee was there, and then there was sellers flex. So, this was sellers stored products in their own warehouses, and this was as per a contract with Amazon, and Amazon only handled delivery parts. There were, however, penalties for stockouts. If you were given an order, did not have the product ready and handy to be shipped, there would be a fine to ensure that you kept a certain minimum order quantity ready with you for shipping. The problems also came about, which have been handled to a fair extent, some more glaring than the others, but yes, nothing is always completely 100% problem free. That will be idyllic. This is not the case. This is the real world, and Amazon was tight in their control over the commitments. So, stock levels like we spoke of, delivery timings, if you miss that, penalization, payments they were managing, and at times the payout cycle was slightly longer. So, there was withholding of cash at sometimes. Also, policy fallout would result in people not getting paid for certain parts or getting paid less than their expectations, and there would be disputes, and these disputes with customers would preferably give the customer more favor, and the sellers would get a bad rap on their knuckles from that. So, those were challenges which caused a lot of sellers to go against Amazon for a big reason. Again, there were high deductions of 50 to 100% for products returned via Amazon couriers, because Amazon was picking the cost up, they were running the tab on that. So, the fines which were imposed on disputes and externally shipped products, because Amazon was not on the quality control side of those things, and this was done without consulting sellers, created a lot of bad vibes. Again, account blocking, which was something which was automatically generated, was something which caused a lot of trouble for Amazon, because there was backlash, and similar accusations were already done in the US. Slowly these things came to light for Indian sellers. So, they also came to know that these are the problems they had faced, and they also got wiser. So, again reparative steps, return policy classification, Amazon put all the damage caused by Amazon as full compensation to sellers. They gave the consumer the decision not to buy, and if there were a wrong product delivered, they would again compensate for that. Product description mismatch, they would compensate to the consumer, and in terms of company penalties for anything were imposed only after consulting the sellers. So, it was not just slapped on top of them, and there was a 7-day resolution window also provided. So, a lot of new features were brought in, which helped the sellers find some more grace with them, and whoever was underperforming, they would get account blocking at the end of it. So, a many factors like that came. They also created a boost seller sales program, maintaining customer satisfaction. So, ratings started to play a big game in there. Heavy investments, losses incurred, and newer key ventures which have shifted the focus from primarily retail to a lot more diversified portfolio like Prime Video, for example, has helped Amazon keep its ship coasting, and it also now gets revenue from a variety of places like advertising, commissions, shipping fees, etc. And they have looked at a lot of factors. They have looked at consumer behavior insights, though I have, like we saw, they went into detail of the consumer before they got into the market through a different company. They launched something called Project Everest, which launches physical grocery stores and local shopping habits are catered to. Now, new Indian regulation, that law has put it at 25% of marketplace total. So, they can't cap any single vendor sales beyond that, and Amazon already is at 40%. So, they have to dial it down from there. Also, vendor pushback, like we talked about, has actually challenged their standing, and aggressive criticism has happened. So, the timeline for achieving profitability has been affected as well. See, Amazon's success shows that the customer centric approach works. You need to also realize who all are your customers, and both external and internal customers need to be looked at, and buyers need to prioritize with low prices and vast product selection. So, there are lots of things, Amazon Tatkal, Easy Ship and all, which they have brought into play, and these have been the keynotes of what Amazon has taken up as decisive steps to ensure their growth continuously. Next up, we will see core marketing planning coming to you. So, tune in next time. We will take this up in the next conversation. Thank you for today, and I really appreciate you being here as an attentive audience. Thank you.